Report unusual behavior. Barricade your homes. Avoid all contact with infected individuals. Wait for official instructions. Wait my ass.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday night chill brush session. We are on episode 36, I believe. I have got a banner, but I haven't updated it, so sorry about that. I hope everyone's all right. I hope everyone's had a good week so far. Find my pen. Before we get started, I just want to show you the membership video, and then we'll get straight into the topic for tonight, which is going to be the finalizing Godzilla inside of Photoshop from previous Thursday. So give me 1 minute and I'll be right back. So you want to join my membership?
Gotcha. Sign up.
By joining, you won't only unlock members-only content, you'll also be supporting my channel and the growth of the community. Are you ready to do your part?
I'm doing my part.
For as little as a price of coffee a month,
God damn, Jimmy. This some serious gourmet shit.
you'll be able to access all past live streams and get exclusive members-only content.
Yeah, boy.
That's less than 49p a video.
Shut up and take my money.
So if you're ready, join now and become part of this 3D journey.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, so as you can see there, you become a member and you can grab all the past live streams as well as the tutorials live streams that we've been doing on Mondays, all the Thursday ones as well. And yeah, and then if you want, you can also become a Patreon. Tier level 3 are currently working on the ZBrush tutorial on how to sculpt a Velociraptor, which is coming to an end soon at the end of October. It should be finishing by the end of October. So they have that archive for them, as well as the files and the ZBrush files and all the other files that come with that. And they could just watch that and have something that's exclusively for the Patreon tier level 3. Cool. Okay. First of all, I just want to say I have a new picture up on the wall there. I don't know if you guys seen that. I've actually painted that myself. I'm really, really, really happy about that one. And I got my Halloween decorations up. You can see little pumpkin man up there. Yeah, it was a little cheap thing to buy, but I thought, screw it. What we're doing tonight is we are continuing, and we're hopefully going to finish this Godzilla sculpt concept that we were creating over the last couple of Thursdays. We've taken it through ZBrush, we've done the rendering side of ZBrush, and now I'm going to do the compositing side of Photoshop. If you want, you can ask me questions about the process, or you can ask me questions about anything in particular, like films or games, or if you just want to, talk about something at all that's got nothing to do with what's going on the screen, then that's totally fine. I'll try to keep up with you guys in the comment section. So let's get started. Just going to put some background music on again. Oops, let's put that one on. Some spooky Halloween music. I love Halloween, by the way. Here we go. There we are. Oh, and there is a 50% off from the 1st of October to the 31st of October, all online stores. The information is in the link below. You can see on the scroll underneath. You can just read that and it'll show you what to do. Yeah, 50% off. That's big. That's my big 1 month thing that I do every year is on October, because I'm a creature character artist. I'll put 50% off on all things on my online store. So if you haven't bought anything yet, or you haven't got anything yet, go grab that because it's only until the 31st of October. Just put the chat up there. Is everyone okay in the chat? Can everybody hear me all right? I hope so. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me. That'd be grand. And let's get into it. So, yeah, last week we kind of did all the compositing. We did most of the compositing inside of ZBrush. I showed you how to do that inside of ZBrush using filters. I then rendered out a couple of different compositing images or matcap materials, sorry, to use in the Photoshop side of things, where we are now. Now I've gone ahead and I've actually just put this music just a little bit lower. Yep. So I've gone ahead and I have put everything into the folder structure that I tend to use when I do Photoshop composites. It's for me, it's pretty basic. It's just everything sort of goes. I go up the levels as I go as I create the concept or the final image. So I tend to start with the base model or the base concept, and then I'll move my way up using the matcap materials. And then there's the lighting pass with all the lights that we rendered out. And then the top part is just the final touches here and there. And then above this will be the adjustment layers, but I usually do that later on anyway. Okay, time to cook. Yes, Mustafa, I know you've been waiting for this one to come out, so hopefully this will be interesting, and you'll learn something from it. Hopefully everyone will. Cool. Before we get started, I just want to come in here, grab this Godzilla reference, because I just want to show you the kind of thing that we're going to aim towards with the final look. So these are the kind of things we're looking for. We're using Weta Studios workshops or Weta Workshops concepts for Godzilla as a reference key reference for what we're doing. Of course, we'll put a bit of a spin on it, just to change it up a little bit, not to go too exact like this one. We'll add some of my own flair into it as well, but that's essentially what we're going to look to aim for. I'm just going to put that over to the side. We don't need it because I'll run you through exactly how I'm going to do it anyway. Cool. So first things first, the base mesh, or I keep saying base mesh. It's actually a base composite or the base render. Don't tend to touch anything on that one. I'll just leave it as it is. The next one, now all these matcap materials, normally there is a lot more of them, but because we did most of the compositing inside of ZBrush with the filters, if you haven't seen that yet already, go and check that out if you remember. Because we've done all that inside of ZBrush, we don't actually need that many matcap materials going forward, because it's essentially already been done, as best we can. So we have a couple of special ones here, which I've chosen so that I can tweak better inside of Photoshop rather than do it inside of ZBrush, because ZBrush is very limited, especially 2022. I'm not sure about 2025 or 2026, but 2022 is very limited to what you can do or what you can achieve using the filter system. I got a question here from Joseph real quick, saying, if I remember correctly, you are a Warhammer fan. What do you think about Space Marine 2? Yes, I am a Warhammer fan. I've got a couple of them at the top there. You probably can't see them because they're out of the shot, but at the top there's a couple of little miniatures that I've painted over the couple of years ago. Can't actually find time to paint miniatures, which is a bummer because I really love painting miniatures. But it is what it is. Space Marine 2, I think, is like worlds better than Space Marine 1, but Space Marine 1 came out long ago, so but I think they did it justice, and it was something I think that gamers were crying out for a very long time. I think the reason it was so well received was because of two factors. One, it's a Warhammer game, and Warhammer is very big in it's a very niche, well, not niche anymore, it's quite big now, but it used to be very niche community. It's now huge. So there was a lot of love for it to begin with. And reason number two, or B, is that a lot of the games that came out before that were disappointing to the audience, the gamers. It was a basic run around and shoot. It was basically Gears of War, but Space Marines, right? With a Space Marine thing. And you cannot go wrong with just a hack 'em slash 'em game where you just go in and just kill everything. Story doesn't even have to be that big or that complicated. You just go in. That's all that people wanted. And I think over a long period of time now, there was actually a video I saw on YouTube recently about video game stories and how a lot of them over the last 10 years, roughly 10 years, maybe 5 years, have become depressing, right? There's an element of depression within the video games. Instead of being something fun and enjoyable, there's always got to be some sort of depressive story or story arc to the characters, like Last of Us Part 2, right? It's majorly depressing game. The first one was an amazing game where you go and you explore in the wilderness of the zombie apocalypse. But the second one was just too strongly, it's too much focus on the zombie on the depression or the feelings aspect of the characters, which is not bad, but it's not great if you just want to get in there and relive what you remembered. Another one is God of War 2. I believe God of War 2 became more depressing. The first one, God of War, what was it called? It wasn't Ragnarok, it was the other one. Was it Ragnarok? I can't remember. The first one where Kratos was rebooted. That one was great because it was a hack 'em slash 'em. You got in there. It was a story between a father and a son, and a son growing up and a father trying to look after him. Great. A little bit depressing. Not as bad as the second one. The second one, the Kratos just feels a bit too neutered, and he doesn't feel like Kratos. He felt like he was trying to be someone else, and that's not what people want. But anyway, I could go on forever about it. But yes, I do love Space Marine. I do love Warhammer. I can't wait to see what Amazon does with the license for Warhammer. But yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath too hard. Anyway, let's get into the Godzilla. So the first one is a matte cap material. Now, they're not in particular order, these matte cap materials. I'm just going to go through them. And as I go through them, I'm just going to explain to you how I would go about using them. The good thing about using these matte cap materials is that you don't have to use all of them. You can render out as many as you like, and then use just one or two if you want, or you could use all of them. But I find that the more you use, the more dirty and saturated the image gets if you're not using it correctly. Mustafa Hyder asks, where am I from? Well, originally I am from South Africa. I was born in South Africa and I moved to England when I was 8 years old. So I've got a bit of a twinge or tinge of my voice. I guess people can hear it. I can't hear it. I'm not sure what they're hearing, but yeah. Cool. So for this one, I like to just cycle through the layers when I'm using these matte cap materials until I find something that works. Now, the idea of this is not to blow out the image. It's to enhance or help the image, the overall image. So typically, I'd use the soft lay or the soft light or overlay in many cases. I think for this one, I'm going to use the overlay. Now I'm going to change the opacity. I'm going to bring it down because I don't want it to be overshot. Now, a lot of people ask me, if you're bringing opacity down, then why are you bringing the fill down? Well, I see it working in this way. If you have opacity at 100, let's put these both at 100 first. If you have an opacity at 100, right, then you bring it down to 50. I find that you can then use the fill layer here, or the fill slider, to bring it down even more, but not so much. You know, it's like a half and half. It's like half in again the amount that you're taking out. So if I bring this down now, it's going to take it away, but it won't be as bad as just using the opacity to take it all away. So that's something that I've sort of used quite a bit when I'm using these matte cap materials. So for the next one, this is kind of like a rim light, I'd say. Those are normally good with screen or lighten, but you can also, if you cycle through these, you can probably find there's a better usage for it. If there isn't, then don't use it. Simple as. So if you cycle through these and you find there's no good use for it just yet, don't use it. So I'm just turn that off for now. We might come back to it later on, because you can, once we have everything set in stone, like, well, not set in stone, but more set up, right? Then we can go back over these materials and matte caps and change them as we want. So the next one is this kind of green with a bit of it's more like a copper, like a bronze copper or a green copper, kind of like a Statue of Liberty type thing. Yeah, I think I'm going to use a soft light for this one. Again, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And we can play around with these sliders later anyway. Slay Shadow says hello. Hello. Actually, I want to say hello to a lot of people. I'll say hello to Joseph Bunkowski, Mitchell, and Sammy Fredo. Thank you guys for joining tonight, as well as Mustafa. Yeah, nice to see you as well. Cool. So this one, now this one's a bit of a cheat, really. I use this one for not ambient occlusion, subsurface scattering a lot, or I used to anyway. So this actually doesn't belong in the materials tab, but I wanted to put it there so that you guys could see how I set up this like layer system as I go along. So I'll just move this little layer tab up a bit so you can see a bit more of it. I'm actually going to bring this out of the materials, and I'm going to stick it at the top here for later, because as I said, we're going to be moving up the slider or up the layers here. So we'll just leave that up there for now. Now the reflective pass, which is what this is typically used for making the character a bit more wet, or specific areas a bit more shiny, which is more like wet in some regards. So we did try this in ZBrush, but as I mentioned before, in ZBrush you cannot isolate the materials to specific areas, right? So we render it separately and bring it into Photoshop where we can do it ourselves. So I'm going to use image. I'm going to adjust the hue saturation, and I'm actually going to bring this up to about 40 because it's quite dark at the moment. I'll bring it up to 40, and then typically I'd use a hard light for this, but you could cycle through these. Again, you can cycle through these to see which one's best. But I find the hard light is probably the best one to use for this. And I'm just going to bring down the opacity a little bit and the fill. And then before I start masking things out, I'm just going to turn it off because I don't need it right now. What I like to do is set it up for later, because I want to get as much things done without the reflectivity on to begin with, so that I can get as much of the base image done as possible before adjusting it. The PBR flat. Now, PBR flat is just the flat color or the flat texture. It's basically just used to enhance the colors that might have been desaturated or were lost once we started mixing matte caps together. You might have lost some of that detail from the color map. So what I'll do is I'll normally just come in here. Now, you'd think I'd use color, but I won't actually, because color makes it quite dull. What I'd probably use is a soft light. But I'll bring the texture, the opacity and the fill down a bit. It's just there to give a hint of that original color back in there, just to help it basically. Now, as I mentioned before, if we were doing this with all the matte caps, there would be tons more in there. But because we did that step inside of ZBrush where we use filters, we can actually bypass the a majority of the work inside of here. Now, this is a great thing to learn, this technique to learn, if you are wanting to be an aspiring concept artist and you, how can I say this? The best way to do it would be the ZBrush method, where you use filters and do most of the rendering inside of ZBrush and then bring it into Photoshop to tweak it, because it speeds up the process. And you can also save those filters out in case, say, the art director or director want to change the look of the character. Then at least you have a saved PBR filters preset, which you can then add to the next variation of the model, and it's saved already for you. You don't have to come in here and start using matte cap materials from scratch to remake the image. You could just use a couple of them, or you could just use it all inside of ZBrush and then bring it into Photoshop to tweak it later. But yeah, best way to use it inside of ZBrush first is that sort of filter system. And you can also save lights as well inside of ZBrush, so you can save out lights, positions of lights, so you get the right light and the same light in every single render, which is really something that you need to do if you're a concept artist, especially in film, is to have that light set up properly and the image set up properly in case there are changes down the line from the art director. So next ones in this layer are the lights, and the lights aren't your typical lights. They're just, it's mostly specular reflectivity rather than actual light, right? So it comes in as a black and white image, and as you can see here, it's bouncing off the image, it's bouncing off the model in a specular highlights style sort of way. And this is the way I use it. There's many other methods you can use to get light information in, but typically this is how I would go about using it. Now, again, these you're gonna have to play around with these a lot to get the right look that you're going for. You'll also have to mask out quite a bit. So the reason I like using Keyshot, especially for this purposes or these type of purposes, is that you get all the right light information, shadow information, even subsurface scattering information all in one render, right? You don't have to worry about doing all this material stuff on the side here. And so you know you're getting the right light setup. If you're doing this through this method of ZBrush, then you're basically building your image up, and you have to think about how the light's going to hit the character and where the shadows are, so that it doesn't look fake or wrong, if that makes sense. I'll get onto that a little bit later. So for this, it's typically you want to stay within the brackets of lighten, screen, color dodge, linear dodge, and lighter color. Now, I'll typically use screen or lighten. Lighten shrinks it even more, right? Whereas screen just gives you a black and white. It makes all the black invisible and all the white visible. So if I use screen, you can see that's how it looks. So if you turn this on and off, you can kind of see the before and after of how that light is hitting that character on there. Before I actually start using masks, I just like to come in here and turn on all of these to screen or lighten, depending on what I want to use it for. Typically, screen is the one to go for, and I'll just turn them all on right now. There we are. Now, when you turn them all on at the same time, it looks quite the mess, really. So what you want to do is you want to go in each one, maybe turn one on and then turn another one on separately to get a feel for how you want your lights to work. Typically, this is the rim light, because it's all the lights around the back of it. So we definitely want this one, but we don't want all the information on the image in this general area. We just want it around the edge of our character. So this is when we start using masks. So I'll just create a mask, Control I on the keyboard to invert the mask. And then I'm going to use a soft round brush. Oh, by the way, most of the brushes I use are pretty basic, apart from maybe the cloud brush and special effects type brushes. But most of it is the standard Photoshop brushes. So just using a combination of the X button to turn on and off the mask on the pen, like to paint on and paint off. I just want to come in here and just put all that rim light in the back of our character, maybe on the shoulder here, a little bit under the jaw, around this area, but nothing in this area right here, because that's going to be not where the rim light is. Celestials, hello. Good to see you here again. Cool. Let's jump to the next slide. So this one, I quite like this one. But again, the beauty about this is that you can actually start to manipulate how you want the lights on. You don't have to have it all over the image. You can keep it to specific areas. So let's say we want the top brow here just a little bit wetter or lighter in this key areas up here. We'll miss all this down here because we're going to put some shadowing down here anyway, some blending into a background. If we have a look at the concepts here, you can see they've basically just done the bust, but they've left the bottom out of the concept. So we're going to do the same sort of thing. So it's kind of emerging out of a mist, so we don't have to worry too much about what's going on down here. To be fair. All right. Let's just put some in the mouth area, like that. Maybe in the eye as well. Again, just using a soft round brush for this. So that will be let's say that's the second light. Now you can always go back in and change it however much you like. So because we haven't destroyed it by erasing the light, we've used a mask to drive it. Now this is something you need to, if you want to do this type of work as a profession, or you're looking to do this type of work as a profession, the best thing I can relay to people is to make your workflow non-destructive. Non-destructive means that you use masks to drive your image, your textures. If you're using Substance Painter, or if you're using this type of method, you use masks. You never ever erase the actual image, because that will just make it so much harder if you want to go back and change things. So always use a mask when you use this sort of method. This one I'm going to try using the lighten out of this. It's a bit sharper on the highlights. I'll have to come back to that one because that's quite an interesting one. I'm just going to put that to normal so we can always come back to that one. And let's see what happens. Okay, let's use a screen on this one. Again, I'm going to hide or make the mask black. And then using a soft round brush, I'm just going to add it to the top here, as if the light's hitting from this angle. Now, we haven't turned on the shadow yet, and that will be something that will actually drive our light source a little bit more, because then we can start to see how the shadow is sitting on our character, and how it should be lit up properly. But for now, that's going to be okay. I'm not going to touch those two. I'm going to leave them off for now. And I'm going to come up to this normal map. The normal map is an interesting one. I kind of stumbled across it, to be fair. I was doing some tests using the different matcap materials. And I always thought, the mask, let's try using the normal map, see how that goes, and see what we can get out of that. Now, what I did find with this one is it's great for pulling a general light source on your model together. I know it's a bit difficult to see that because it's green, purple, and green, red, and blue right now. Oh, sorry, I just got to say hello to someone. Hamid Salamani, hello. Nice to see you here again. Yeah, so it's got a green, red, and blue. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how are you going to get a light source out of the green, red, and blue image? Well, that's exactly how we're going to get it. If you're going to go, if you go into the channels section of this image, so if you come over to layers here, there's a thing called channels, and in here you can see you got the red, green, and blue, and that is where the light source, the different colors are shown, right? So as you can see here on the red, the majority of it's on the right hand side. Coming over to the left hand side, the green is top down and the blue is straight on. So what I've found is that if we use the green channel as a sort of pull together light source, if we hit Control A on our keyboard and Control C, Control A, Control C, that's going to select everything in the green channel. Just going to turn the RGB back on. And then I come down here to the light source and I hit Control V on the keyboard. We then get our green channel out of that normal map. And then what I can do is come over to the normals, the layer style, and just come down to soft light and then use that. Now this tends to be very low down on the fill and opacity. But I'll show you what happens. We just, using that, it just pulls everything into a more realistic sort of look. I know how good it is on the screen, but it sort of gives a new sort of light direction, right? And I think the green down is much better than what we had before. I'm not saying you have to use it, but you know, it works all right. It works for me anyway. The PBR depth, we're going to leave that one for now because we can use that later. But typically, I'll try to use it with a multiply because you get to hide things in the background and have that sort of what do you call it? It's not a blur, but it's a fade in the background with the PBR depth. So we'll move on to the good stuff now, and this is the PBR shadow. So we've now set up pretty much all that we needed to set up. Just take this watch off quick, sorry. So we've basically set up all we've wanted to set up in the macap materials and the lights. And so we can now turn on the shadow. And once we turn the shadow on, it's actually going to bring this image together a bit more. And we don't want 100% black when it comes to shadows, because that's not how shadows typically work. We want to take it down a little bit so it's a bit transparent. And then the next one is the ambient occlusion. Now I'm going to duplicate the ambient occlusion because I want to reuse it for something else, and I want to change the properties of this PBR ambient occlusion. So if I come over here to images, I go to adjust, and I want the levels for this one. I'm trying to bring more of that dark through. So if I pull this middle arrow or slider to the right hand side, you can start to see there's more darkness coming through. And if I bring this far right slider to the center, you'll see that there's more light coming through. Oh, there's more white on the character now. So that's pretty cool. You can also bring this slider over, which is the blacks, but we don't want to do that. Cool, so I like that. I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to use that as a multiply as well. And that's going to give us even more, if I just turn down the fill and opacity a bit, even more depth to our character. So this is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like now. It actually looks a lot better. And we're not even done yet. So the next thing to do, or the next thing I like to do, is to use a mask. I'm going to use the Wonder brush, the wand. Is it the magic wand? And now you can either use the magic wand, or you can come into channels and hit Control on the keyboard and tap on the RGB to select everything that's in the white, and then you can right click and hit select inverse, because what we want to do is we want to delete all the background. So now I'll just come in here and I'll just delete all these backgrounds. Now you can put all this into a folder and just make a mask out of the selection, but I think deleting the background is much better. So I'll just go in here and I'll just delete all these. You can do this at the beginning, you can do this at the end, depending on your in preference, to be fair. But I tend to get to a certain point and then I'll do it. Cool. So that is that. Now we can turn the mask off, and we have our Godzilla with nothing in the background. So the next thing I do is add a new layer, put this underneath everything because it's the background layer now. You can also add this to a folder and call it BG for background, but it's just such a small project that we don't need to really do that. Okay, so typically what I like to do is go for a sort of mid-tone gray, nearer to darker tones than lighter tones. I don't like working on a white background. I don't like working on a black background. It doesn't hurt my eyes, but it's just something that's distracting, you know, and it doesn't give you the correct kind of impression of your image if you're working on a white background or a dark background. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just group all this. So this is the character. I'll just group that all. And if I want, I can actually come in here now and I can scale this up. Now, don't be afraid, because this is a bust concept, right? Don't be afraid to scale it. And even if it clips off the edge here a little bit, don't be afraid of that. It's all about getting a good render of your character or your creature. Now, there is I say rules, but there is techniques on positioning of your image and how to position it correctly so that you get what you want out of your image, rather than just having a huge image and then having like a small picture in the middle, but all this wasted space. Typically, if you're doing a portrait, you want to have it in a portrait. If you're doing a character, depending on what kind of character it is, if it's a long whale or sort of dinosaur, landscape's fine. If it's a human that works on two legs, or if it's a creature that walks on two legs and is quite tall, or if it's a tall creature with 4 legs or whatever it is that's tall, better to do it in landscape than to do it in portrait than to do it in landscape, because landscape is typically for environment stuff as well as big characters or creatures like dragons, dinosaurs, that sort of thing. It's just so you don't have so much empty space on each side of the image. If I was to do this, I'll just quickly do it. Really, it's a bit easy to show. If I did this, right? Actually, that's a bit too extreme. Let's try something like that. It's normally people will do this with a 1920 by 1080 ratio or aspect, right? Now, you could make a render out of this as long as it was something interesting in the back going on in the background. But you can see by the looks of it, it's a lot of empty space on the right and the left. And the problem with that is that your eyes like to wander around, right? Especially when they're looking at an image. They love wandering around your image, around an image, to see it in all its glory. And so when you see loads of dead space, it also makes your image smaller, right? It makes it look smaller, less inviting to look at. So just bear that in mind when you're doing either a concept portrait or landscape. Depending on the subject that you want to portray, you have to make a good judgment on how you want to use the canvas. Oh, all right. So, I mean, this would be great for like a poster type thing that you could go for. And if we look at the concept here, you can see they're not shy about going off the side here with their character as well. So because they're trying to show off this part here, right, the head, they're not really worried too much about what's going on around the back of him or on the side of him. They just want you to focus in on this area. So, and there's an example of jaw lock. There's an example of a landscape version, but they're trying to get the whole of the character in the scene. You see, same with this. This is all right. This is all right for landscape. I would have maybe have made it portrait a little bit, maybe depending on how you want to perceive it. But yeah, very important to get your canvas right when you're doing these types of concepts. Cool. So before we go any further, I'm having a Halloween sale. It's 50% off everything. I'm going to keep saying it, and I've spelt Halloween wrong. I can see that now. Damn it. I'm having a Halloween sale, 50% off. It's links in the description box below. The coupon codes are there as well. So if you copy the coupon codes at the checkout for Artstation and Artstation and Gumroad, then you should be golden. Gumroad and Flip Normals and QBrush are automatically 50% off anyway. So yeah, go ahead and grab something from there if you want. And also, I thought we'd just take a quick break so people can catch up with my rambling, because I wanted to share with you real quick. I don't know if everyone else has seen it, but there's been a new trailer for Predators Badlands. I thought maybe we could have a look at this. I am aware that there might be copyright, but don't worry. I don't even monetize these live streams, so they can suck eggs, to be fair. So yeah, if you want to be a member and support me, then that would really help. So let's just have a quick look at this trailer, shall we?
Welcome to the most dangerous planet in the universe, where everything is trying to kill you. I need a hand. You're here to prove yourself. Hunting something that can't be killed. We might not be alone in this hunt.
Wayland Nutani. Oh, they talk now? Not a fan of that. Yeah, not sure about the talking, but I think the rest of it's all right. Did you guys get the audio on that, by the way? I'm not sure I actually shared the audio, but anyway. Yeah, what do you guys think of that? I think it was okay. I'm a huge skeptic these days, because I remember growing up with the original Predator film, where it was the old Arnold Schwarzenegger, the big guys fighting this one predator in the jungle. That's sort of action movie horror type thing. Not quite sure what to think about the latest one though. I know that Prey was received fairly well. It was in that era of, well, I don't know if we're still in that era, but it's in the era of the what do you call it? Female girl boss. I think that's what a lot of people say online. Girl boss period. So, I'll give it some credence to that, but I think the new one, it actually looks quite nice. Sorry, not works, but looks quite nice. I'm not sure about the look of the Predator. They've done something weird to the look, but it could work. You'd have to probably watch it in cinemas to see if it's any good or not. But from first glance, not bad. I don't like trailers a lot, to be fair. I like because they show too much in the trailer, and you've basically seen the film. So, not sure what to think about that. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Whilst we carry on with this, maybe get a discussion going on it. Cool. All right. So, let's get back to it. So we've added a gray background, and the next thing I'll do is I'll make a new layer, and in this layer I'll use the gradient on a classic gradient tool, and then I'll start to create some gradients in the background using this. So come down to a dark sort of off black, and then I'm gonna, depending on where the light source is for this, on the right hand side, because the lights we're sort of putting the light on the right hand side of him. We want it to be darker on the other side. So you can start to just add a gradient on the opposite side of him from bottom to top. So the light's coming down on him like that. And then I'll make a new layer. Now this is where I go a little bit crazy with layers, especially if it's my own personal work. I'm not too fussed about naming layers. Again, because it's personal work, it doesn't need to work. Don't have to worry about that. But if you feel more comfortable naming the layers or whatever, then that's totally up to you. Just going to add a light source. Let me put this. Yeah, let's put that there. So it's just behind his head, and it's going to be a round gradient. Let's put 1 or 2 there. All right. Mustafa says, what was your role in The Lion King? And can't judge because I haven't watched the movie yet. Yeah, fair enough. My role in The Lion King, I was a VR character artist because was it Jon Favreau? Jon Favreau. It was Jon Favreau. He wanted to be able to, because it was all CGI, even though they say it was live action. He wanted to be able to be in the world of Lion King, in the safari or the savannah or whatever it is. But it wasn't a physical place, so he couldn't actually be on set to move characters around and stuff. So what they created was a VR version of Lion King. So there was 2 versions of Lion King. There was the one that you saw, and then there was the one that Jon Favreau saw, where we had to create very low res models of the characters that are in the film, so that he can go in VR and pick them up and put them in specific areas for the scene, and then watch the scene in VR all around him. It's quite an amazing thing back in the day to be able to achieve. And I guess it's something that he really did need, because like I mentioned, there was no set, there was no real areas that he could film from, so he had to make sure that when you saw it, it made sense. And that was what my role was. I was a creature artist, texture artist on the VR version of The Lion King. And I think I also helped with some textures on the actual characters as well. So yeah, and then of course I now work in VR because I work in a game studio, which is VR. So there's a little bit of a taster of things to come in my career. Ran out of coffee. Great. Let's go. So once I have a dark and a light source in the background, I could create a new layer again, and I have a cloud brush in here. Number 2, I think. Yep, number 2, which I like to use to make my backgrounds. Oh, we've got a question here from Celestial saying, do you also get those stripes with gradient. How do you fix it? Stripes? Oh, these, you mean these like lines in here? That's because it's, I think the image resolution is too low, I believe. You can blur it out if you like, but for the purposes of this, it's not so intrusive because it was just a way of getting color on the canvas, right? I do find that with Photoshop, I think the image has to be the resolution image size. Let's go to image size. So the resolution's at 72. You could probably bump up the resolution and see if that works better for you. We are quite a low pixelation here, so we only have 1270 by 1920. So it's going to be very pixelated, but it's a concept, so it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so I've got my cloud brush, and what I'll do is I'll use the Alt button to color pick, and I'm just going to start color picking areas, and using this cloud brush to create some clouds. Now I'm not going to be too heavy-handed with this because what I'm looking for is a gradual buildup of cloud, right? Not too worried about down here at the moment because, whoops, let me just undo that. Not too worried about down here, but you kind of, the best thing to do is to stay away from too darker sort of color, you know, especially when you're doing these types of concepts. I find that a lot of artists will tend to go for very dark backgrounds to hide their imperfections or to hide imperfections in their artwork. Not a great way to combat that. I find that if that's the case, then you're better off using Photoshop to paint it out, or start using Photoshop to clean up those areas. If we have a look in this image real quick, I'll show you what I mean by that. Because although this image here looks amazingly detailed, it's actually not. Well, it is because it is detailed, but it's not from the original design. You can see there's a lot of brush strokes. If you look more and more carefully at these, there's a lot more brush strokes in here than you'd think. And that's because they've taken a concept from ZBrush really quickly, chucked it into Photoshop because they're on a time limit as well, chucked it into Photoshop and done a lot of paint over inside of Photoshop. And that's another good way of creating very quick concepts. So yeah, also keep that in mind. Now that I have this, I just want to create a new layer, and coming back to the gradient with a sphere, I just put it up to a lighter white in the background because I want to just hit this area here a little bit more, or at the back of the head. But I want to make this now a soft light. So it's kind of like a halo effect around them, sort of around that head area, just to lighten it up a bit more. Okay, now that we have this character or creature in a group by itself, we can add a mask, and this is going to help us a lot more than painting it out with an eraser, right? So we have it in a mask now, and what I want to do is I want to get rid of this area down here using a mask because it's not needed, right? So we want to blend this out gradually. Use a brush, using the cloud brush. I'll just blend it out a little bit so that it looks like it's coming out of the scenery there, or out of the clouds, but it's still too dark. So I'll add a new layer, grab a color from the background, like a white or a gray, and I'm just going to introduce that to the bottom here. Now, the other thing you can do, just grab another color there, Another thing you can do is you can actually come in here. Oops, sorry. Come in here. I'm going to hit Control on the keyboard, and I'm going to tap on the PBR flat, and that's going to give me the selection, right? It's a selection brush, so selecting everything in that area. And what I'll do is I'll make a new layer, grab the gradient tool again, and then put it down to like a dark, like a black. I'm just going to make a gradient going up the body, right? It doesn't have to be too harsh a gradient. Just a little bit of a gradient, like that. And that's just going to clean up that area a little bit. You can change it to a multiply if you like, and then change the opacity a little bit. Like that. El Dino Salazar. That's a hell of a name, Salazar. Where are you from? I am originally from South Africa. I think I've already mentioned this in this live stream. I'm originally from South Africa, and I moved over to England when I was 8 years old. So spent the majority of my life in England. Although I did live in Hamburg for 6 months, for a job. Okay, so we have our background, we have our character. We are now going to do some play with the renders a little bit more again. So we can come back into materials. I'm going to turn on the what do you call that? The reflective map, and I'm going to make a mask out of this, or add a mask to it. And I'm going to hit Control I on the keyboard and then paint that wet feeling back into the character. Now I'm going to be very selective in where I want to add this sort of reflective wetness to them, because I don't want it everywhere, because that could just overwhelm the image. So I just wanted a few key areas. You probably won't even see it. It's a subtle hint at the end of the day. And then for this as well, I just want to come in and maybe knock back some of that light that's popping up the top of his head here. This is all about getting things exactly how you like them now. It's all about reading the concepts that you're looking at, as well as your own artistic sort of view, your artistic knowledge. And let's try putting one of these on to see what this looks like. Okay. Add more of that rim light just there. Now, we haven't even pulled these down yet, so we can actually come in here and we can drop the opacity and a fill for these lights. I think I'll leave the rim light as it is. Is that rim light just down here? I'm just going to get rid of that just down here, because it's a little bit too distracting in that small area there. You don't really need it there. It's mainly for the top part up here. Okay. And this one, let's just bump this down a little bit. Okay. Now let's return to this light, or this matte cap material. And now that we have the majority of the image sorted, we can just come in here and see what we can do with this, if we can do anything with this. Let's try a screen, but I just want to change the levels on it. So we're now manipulating this image, or this matte cap, to something completely different. Will that work? Might not work, actually. I think it's too much. Let's try bringing down the opacity. It's subtle, but it is there. I think I'm going to leave it like that. It is quite subtle. Okay, so you can also let's just bump up the base color or the flat color. What I also like to do, if I find that the image is getting a little bit too muddy or sort of flat as it is right now, I like to come in to the base model or the base image, make a duplicate of that, and then come into the adjustments and hue and saturation and bump up the hue a little bit, or the saturation, sorry, and the light. We can use this as a let's see. Let's use that as no. I'm trying to think if this is going to work. Lighter color, and then add a mask. Control I, and we're just going to paint it back in along the top here. We can even change the overall hue and saturation for this, because I think it's got too much of a yellow tone going on at the base here. So we can even change that. Whoops. Change that to a more orangey tone. Whoop, mouse gone. That's better. Okay, let's turn this one off. It might be this one's playing around too much with the image, so we'll turn that one off. Not normal. Oh god, it's all going wrong. Lighten. Let's just bring this all down a little bit. There we are. Yeah, I think there is too much reflection on the forehead. I think I'm trying to copy this one a bit too much. You can see here, it's got nice light information going on here. But we can change that anyway. I think it's that one, isn't it? Or it could be this one. Let's try this one. Let's drop this. So we get less light information there. That's fine. We have this mask layer, actually the depth mask. We haven't touched yet. We just fill that in there. Yeah, multiply. And I want to select the background. Delete it. This is getting better. It's starting to look a bit better. Right. Just gonna quickly see what we can do about moving him. Maybe positioning him somewhere else. Will that work? Maybe make him a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's better. Cool. All right. I'm quite happy with that. Now, we're not done just yet. Again, if you really wanted to, you could come in here and you can actually paint directly onto your model now that the model is it's not set in stone, but it's more set than normal than it would be. If you can't find that good rim light on your character, then you can just come in with a brush and just add that light into key areas. This is where, you know, the skill with your brush comes in as an artist, and you can even just give little highlights in here, but you know, you can definitely enhance it with a brush later on and get some better results out of it if you wanted to. I'm not gonna, but that's horrible. So you can come in here and you can highlight maybe just a few of these key areas along the ridge here. You know, it might be subtle, but it works. Next thing I'll make an eye. I want to sort of focus on that eye. If we bring this in here, you can see the eyes on this character are very simple. Very simple indeed. So what we'll do is we'll just try and mimic that. Mustafa says, your time-lapse videos are so satisfying. I used to watch them in my rest between study sessions. Keep going, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's weird, like the amount of views. I think it's because the pandemic's over. But when the pandemic was around, so I'm just going to zoom in actually to this eye now. So that's another good thing to remember. When you're doing an image like this, you want to, at the beginning, try to stay outside or try to stay away from the image as much as possible. So make sure you don't zoom in too much, right? Just going to see what I can do with this. That's fine. Yeah, try to stay away from being too close to your image when you're doing these sort of concepts for as long as you can. Once you're happy with the overall image, then you can come in and start to add detail. So this will be the eye basically, and I'm just going to color pick from the skin or the image a color, right? And it's going to color pick an iris color like that, right? And grab a white, and we're going to put a bit of a highlight. So we're going to highlight under the eye here. So we just add a little bit of white in the iris there. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff. You can get a very simple looking eye, which actually sets it really well into your character's head. There we are. Right. Yeah, that's going to work really nicely in there. You can also, if you wanted to, if you find that you don't have enough teeth, well, you can now come in if you wanted to. I'm going to put in here for now for an example, but if you wanted to, you can now come in and maybe add some more teeth using a paintbrush instead. Just color pick from those general areas and you can't go wrong. But yeah, you know, something like that as an example. This is when the fun begins with the concept. Now you can come in and you can really go to town with it. So you could, you know, add more teeth if you wanted to, and clean up some areas. All right. And what else can we do? Oh yes, the ambient occlusion. The subsurface scattering, that's what it is. I'm just going to bring this out to the top here because it needs to be out at the top because we need to be able to color pick it or color pick the channel. So I like to create fake ambient occlusion using the, fake subsurface scattering using the ambient occlusion map. Of course, Godzilla is quite a massive creature. Doesn't really have that much subsurface scattering because of the scale of him. But let's see what we can do with it anyway. I'm going to bring the slider down and also just bring the slider up because I just want it in. So all the dark areas is where the sort of subsurface scattering is going to be, right? So we want to make sure that the whites are very tight so that there's not a lot of spillage of black and grays onto the overall surface of the creature. I'm going to hit OK for that. And then you can hit Control I, and this is kind of how you're going to see how the map's going to work, so you can get an idea how the map's going to look when you use it. But what you want to do then, or next, is go to Channels and hit Control and select the RGB. You can hide that now. You don't need that anymore. It might look a bit weird when you see it. It looks like the selection's not working properly, but it is. So don't worry too much. And then what I'll do is come down to just above the PBR AO and choose a off red color for subsurface scattering. I'll just fill in that mask, and you can see it's filled in the masks on all the dark areas from the ambient occlusion was. Now, of course, like I said before, Godzilla is a massive creature, doesn't really have that much subsurface scattering on, but it's nice to see it and see if you can use it. You can use this as an overlay, a soft light. You can use it as a color. You can use it in color as well, but you can see it just gives that extra bit of detail, even if it's not supposed to be there. It gives it a nice little reddish sort of flesh color, between the armor plating and stuff like that. We can also change this, so we can bring this down a little bit if it's too much. There we are. You could also mask this as well, and I would recommend that people do that as well. Just mask it. And then anywhere you don't want it, so using the black on a soft round brush, you can just come in and paint it out anywhere you don't want it. But I quite like it everywhere. It just gives it that, maybe not on the top part, the scales up there, but I think generally in the face area, it's nice to have it, especially where it comes into contact with like softer skin in the sort of mouth area. If you turn this on and off, you can see that. What I will say is you can also use on the PBR, create a mask and then paint out along the soft tissue area that ambient occlusion a little bit, because it's not so dark on the gums. You see, you can make it dark by painting darker gums, but typically it's not that dark in that general area. Cool. If you really want, you can pull this to the top here, actually, because that's going to engulf that tooth, those teeth that we painted in as well. And then you need to just go in here and paint them out. Should probably have done that before I painted those teeth, but yeah, you live and learn. Cool. So now we have a much fiercer looking Godzilla with a little bit more color in him as well, which is quite nice. The next thing to sort of add to the image, if we make that smaller, I'm going to make a new layer or new folder in here, and I'm just going to, I'm just going to leave it in there, actually. I'm going to call these VFX, this folder VFX. Now, we're not going to keep it in that folder. We're going to put it somewhere else once we've managed it. But I just want to put everything in there so you know where it is. I've got some VFX stuff on a separate screen. I'm just going to pull this in. So for this, I'm going to be using an image from online, which is kind of a metal. So if you go online, you type in metal texture, you can get stuff like this. And what we want to do with this is plaster it everywhere, right? So it's in here. Let me just put this into the VFX. I'm also going to rasterize these as well. I'm just going to plaster this all over Godzilla's sort of body. Right. What I'm doing is just holding down Alt whilst I do this, and it's just duplicating it. It's a quick way of duplicating things inside Photoshop. And I'm going to merge all these down. So just come in here and say merge layers. And then with the, what is this called again? It's called the spot heal brush. I'm just going to try to get rid of any seams or sort of line work that's going to look a bit weird on the character. So this is just getting rid of all that repetitiveness in the texture and line work. This is just a very cheap and easy way of creating texture on your character that you couldn't get when you're inside a ZBrush, right? It's adding that extra layer of detail to your character. All right. So let's say that's a texture that I like. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Next thing I want to do is just blur this, because I don't want it to be too sharp. I want to blur it a little bit. There we are. And then I'm going to hit Control and select any of these images that are basically to isolate Godzilla's head, right? And I'm going to select the inverse. I'm going to delete the extra sort of material. And then we can come in here and we can start to scroll through these and see what we like. Let's try the soft light. Now, we don't have to keep it as color. We can actually come in here and say we want this to be desaturated. And what that's going to do is just going to give us some texture work along the top of him, or along the surface of him. Right? That sort of breakup of texture. Just going to undo that and get the color back. Alternatively, you can change the color. So you can change the hue saturation of the color. So anything you like. I quite like it as a bluish, I think. Got that. It's got a kind of pattern like on the texture, you know, how it looks like a sorry, Komodo dragon. I can't remember. I can't remember the lizard's names, guys. Sorry about that. But you get what I mean. It gives that extra bit of depth to it. Now, at the moment, it's sitting on top of all of the textures, right, that we have below it. So what we want to do is move this image now below the lights and everything else, right? Now, it might not look like it's done much, but it's actually moved everything. It's moved it below everything. And that's actually going to help with the placement. So you got to think of it. Anything that's on top in the layers is going to be more it's going to be more important. So if you have the texture on top of everything, all the things underneath it is going to be affected by that texture. But if you move it to below the lights, then the lights aren't going to be affected, or the shadows aren't going to be affected by this texture. I hope that makes sense. Cool. So I'm just going to bring down the opacity of these a little bit. And you see here, we got nice variations in texture. If I turn this on and off now, you can kind of see that in effect. And it's just a nice, easy cheat to get more out of your image, I guess you could say. And that's not the end of it, because you can go to town with this as long as you keep a respectful amount of it going, using a respectful amount of it. You don't want to be using hundreds and hundreds of images, as long as you keep it relatively simple. I think everybody knows this image. I use this image quite a lot in my time-lapse videos because it's a really good image to use to add detail to the surface. Now, you got to remember that Godzilla is quite a large creature, so any details need to be quite small in comparison. So this is going to take forever, but what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this a couple of times. Best to make a box. Now, if anybody knows of a quicker way of doing this, then please let me know in the comments, because that would really help in the future. I'm not 100% like great at Photoshop, but I do know enough to get me my work looking good. So now that I got those, I'll merge these together, and then I'll just duplicate this, and it's just going to make it a lot quicker than before. And I'm just going to merge this one down and select Godzilla's well, actually no, wait, we need to blur out a little bit. So you can see it's very fine details in here. What we want to do is just come into the blur and go to Gaussian blur, and I'm going to bump this down to 0.5 just to take the edge off that detail. And I'm going to select this mask. I'm going to hit select inverse, delete the excess, and change this to just cycle through these real quick and just see what they look like. I think soft light, but you can see how it's affecting all of the shadow, ambient occlusion. It's even on top of the eyeball. You can see there the texture. So what you want to do is bring this below and put this just underneath the PBR flat, and that's going to make it so it doesn't affect anything on top. And what we're going to do is go to image and adjust and desaturate it, because we want these little dots in here as the texture, right? And we can even, if you want, you can invert it, so you can have two of these, in fact. So let's make two of these, and one of them will be inverted and the other one will be not inverted. And I just want to make a new mask using a soft round brush. I'm going to start painting this in. So this is going to be the non-inverted one. So we'll put these little dots along the base of the character. Now, just don't go over the top with it, right? You want to be able to see them, but we haven't even changed the opacity yet, but you want to be able to see them, but not have all of it all over the place, you know, just in key areas will do. It's there to enhance what you've got. It's not there to take over what you've already made. So just remember that when you're using this type of technique of texture work on your images. All right, and that's the bottom layer. So then we have the top layer, which we'll put the invert on, and we'll make a mask. And in this one, we can just put it on the topmost area, maybe not the spikes, but on the topmost area, just very lightly add that in on the top layer. Right, and then I'm going to use the opacity. I'm just going to bring this down. I want it to be barely visible, right? I want it to be so that when people see it, they can just about see, oh yeah, that's sort of represents little scales, like minute scales on the character, right, from afar. I don't want it to be overly sort of emphasizing anything, especially same thing with this one. The lower version, the other version. I want it to be there and noticeable, but not overpowering. So you can see it from this distance here, these little dots in this general area, they look like misshapen scales or complex scales on the face, but they're just textures. Hamid says, is next week's project the live stream on the mutant creature? If not, when is the live stream for the mutant creature project? Thursdays, right? I think we can arrange to have a mutant creature for Thursday because we're finishing off Godzilla now. We can look into making a mutant creature. It won't be a tutorial base, but it'll be more like we're doing here tonight. Well, this is kind of like a tutorial, really, but yeah, I can see it to make like from Calypto project. What's it called? Game? That's that game called again. The Calypto protocol. Is that what it's called? That sort of mutant. Is that what you're referring to? Because we can start one of those if you like. And I can show you the brush that I created to make it. So yeah, getting back to Godzilla, just going to see if we can put some of these little what do you call textures in the mouth area, the gums, along the gums, you know, just like that. That should be fine. Cool. I mean, it's not looking too bad. You can see this rim light in this area here is annoying me a little bit. So I'm just going to try and find it, and then I'm going to take that out. Just on the top there, because in hindsight, these scales would actually hide the light, the rim light coming through here. That's better. It's all about the little touches. The Callisto project protocol. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I honestly, I didn't have anything planned for next Thursday's sculpt, but because it's Halloween, I guess as well, it'd be quite nice to have a horror creature. So we can definitely look at Callisto project, and we can work on one of them. Celestial says, "Are you going to do something Halloween themed anytime soon?" You see, the problem I have is I don't have enough time in the day. I am currently working on a Halloween themed time lapse video, which I think people will quite enjoy. But yeah, like I said, there's so many things I have to work on at the moment, as well as work itself. I think the Callisto protocol will be Halloween kind of themed, or we can make it sort of Halloween themed. But yeah, there's a time lapse video I'm making at the moment, which is very Halloween themed, which I think people enjoy quite a bit. And if you want, I can, once I've made it and once I've showed it, we could probably look at it in a live stream or whatever. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to pack everything in on such a short sort of time frame. Cool. Okay, so I would say we're about 95% there with this image now. Again, we don't want to overdo it, right? When we're doing these type of images, don't want to take it to extremes, basically. The majority of the extra added features now is done, and if you wanted to, I think if we just bring this back in real quick, you can see in here that they went a little bit further with some line work with a brush. So we can come in here with a brush now. Oops, let me just zoom in real quick and change the brush. You can come in here and, you know, add some extra lines or details in here. So you could add some hair in the fins or whatever, you know, if you wanted to. I think I'm going to leave it out though. I think it's getting to it's a good point, and I think adding anything is going to actually ruin it. You could save it out as what we will save it, and then go back and add a different type of approach to it with a brush a bit more, add a bit more brush work in there instead. I think that's what we'll do. You could come in and just put some quick saliva, just using a brush inside of here. So just with a very quick white type brush, you could just come in and add some saliva in there and put it on the screen. Just lower the opacity a little bit. Stuff like that. CB says he is the whole new person right now. He is the whole new person right now? I don't know what that means. But thank you if it's pointed towards me. Cool. If you want, you can also exaggerate some stuff. So you can see in some areas, you can maybe just grab a brush inside of Photoshop and just exaggerate in some key areas if you wanted to. This is really like your time now to sell the image and to sell the concept with a bit of paint over, a bit of razzmatazz, adding things that you probably couldn't get inside of ZBrush done. You can do it now inside of here. I'm just going to add a new layer, in fact, because I still think this belly in this belly area is a bit too yellowish. So I'm going to put a bucket. I'm going to fill it with a kind of off-bone white and change the color for the layer to. That's why let's try color first and put it to an off-white, small off-white, and then make a mask and just paint it onto the chest area. Oh, I bring this one down, this layer down. Oops, come on. Again, just to below the lights. I think that's going to be a lot better. Maybe just bring down the opacity a little bit. Okay, so let's say we are now happy with how this is and how it's looking. We can maybe just come in here. I just want to do a little bit of cleanup work with this, with a cloud brush real quick. Just add a bit more cloud in here. Just see how that looks. Might be a bit too much. And we just drop the opacity a little bit. I think that's going to be all right. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to keep going with it because it could go on for hours and hours. It's actually already gone on for an hour and 36 minutes. But so the last thing I like to do at this point is I'll grab everything and put it into a new folder. And just call this Godzilla. I'll make a new group, and in this group we'll have the adjustment layers. And this is when things really start to come in to their own, or the image starts to become more grounded or pulled together, like the final touches. So the first thing I'll do is make a brightness and contrast, and I will up the brightness. Maybe I'll bring down the contrast a little bit, depending on the image as well. It all depends on the image as well. You can't just have the exact same thing for everything I'm doing on the screen here right now. You might change it and make something, use it for something different as well in your one. I'm just giving you the kind of groundwork that I normally would use. Then the next thing is the levels. So the levels, instead of using the sliders now, I'm going to use these pipettes. So I'm going to color pick the darkest area. So the top one is the darkest area. So we'll just try and click the darkest area. And then I'm going to skip the middle one and go straight for the lightest area. So with this, you want to pick the lightest area. Now, a good thing to do is to select the lightest area you think is on your image, and then hit Alt on the keyboard, and you'll actually see where the lightest area of your image is. You could only do this once you first select the lightest area, and then you can just keep selecting the lightest area until you get that lightest area how you like it. And then the middle one is just going to change the color of the overall image, right? Depending on the type of mood you want from your creature or your character or the scene, you can change the color of the image. And this is great for sort of giving a bit of character to the final render, right? But it's not, you don't have to do this as well, because there's another technique that I use just after this one, where we will start to actually use get more of a like a, let's say, cleaner image, but we'll get more of a grounded image with it. So let's say we keep it like that. You can also change it to color if you like. You don't have to keep it to normal. You can change it to anything you like. I'm going to leave that normal, and I'm just going to bring down the fill opacity. And then the next one in the adjustments, I'm going to use the color balance. Sorry, not the color balance. Oops, get rid of that. It is the color lookup. And this one's going to change the overall color of your character, of your image. So you can see you've got loads of them to work with in here. And what I like to do is just cycle through them until I get to one that I like the look of. And it's going to give it kind of a mood and a sort of grainy, like a finish to it, like you would get for a conceptual piece. Some of them will be knocked out. Some of them will bring back the color. It all depends on the sort of image you're going for. 4 colors. These film stock 50s are quite nice. You can see this one's quite nice as well. Depending on the, again, this one would be quite a nice one for like a very moody looking concept. And then you'll have this one, which is a bit more bleached out. Make it look like an old style camera image. And then all you got to do is just cycle through these until you find one that you think would suit your image the best. And then just use that one, I guess. So just going to come into the end now. Again, you don't have to use this as a normal map or as a normal layer. You can change this to, I'd like to change it to color, and then I'll cycle through them again, just because it gives it a bit of a different finish to it. So I'll just go through these real quick. Sorry, got a drink of water. Oh, right. Yeah. I quite like that one, actually. It's got like a little bit of purple in it, and it looks a little bit like the original concepts that we're going for. So if we just bring these in, you can see they kind of use the same sort of techniques in theirs. Oops. Keeps the zombie out of place. Anyway, I'll move that out of the way. Get on my nose. Let's just see where we are. Kodak. So let's go down the Kodaks. Actually, the one below it is much better. And you could spend hours doing this, by the way, trying to find the right filter. I think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Don't want to be overpowering. I want to, again, subtlety is the key with this type of stuff. Next thing I'll do is go for, you can add an exposure. If your image is quite dark and you want to sort of brighten up a certain point of your image, you can use you can use the exposure. Let's put the exposure up. No, let's put it down, right? For this example. And then in the mask, you can hit Control-I in the mask. Then grab a soft round brush. And then paint back in those dark areas you wanted to have, leaving the face less dark, right? Because that's the focal point of this image. When you're looking at the image, you want to make sure that you are focused on that area. Next one. Now, I don't tend to use vibrance or saturation too much. You could probably put the saturation down if you wanted that more horror type film look to him, where he's a bit more saturated with colors, because he's not very colorful unless you're looking at the latest films. But like the first film, 2016, very difficult to see what colors he were. He was just a mottled mass of green and browns, and very, very, I'd say very boring looking color palette. But you can do that using the saturation. You can bring down the saturation to be a bit more realistic, or you can bring it back up to give it even more saturation, to make it more colorful. I think we bring down the saturation a little bit. That's actually going to help it a bit more. You can also play with the vibrance as well, bring up the vibrance or down the vibrance. I think that's going to work really nicely. -10. And I think the focus on the face is still there, which is quite nice. I haven't lost anything to the background, which is nice. The background just in this area at the top here is shining just on the right area, so it focuses the eye into the face more around here. Cool. All right, so let's say that we're happy with that. I'm just going to delete this top one. Let's say we're happy with that. The next thing to do would be to make a copy. Always make a copy. Don't just merge and then save, because you'll lose all that information. So make sure you make a copy of the final piece, then say merge group. And then we can do, actually, before we merge group, I'm just going to hit Control-Z on the keyboard to undo that. I'm just going to, using the crop tool, I'm just going to crop everything so that's now set in stone for the sort of look that we're going for, or the position of we're going for. And then I'm going to merge the group, make a duplicate, come back to this one, come to filters, come to sharpen, hit the smart sharpen, and I'm just going to zoom out real quick. I love using the smart sharpen, by the way, because it just tightens everything together a little bit more and makes every detail a little bit more tighter. So once you hit this, you'll see the difference. If I hit undo quick, and I'll do that again. So go to smart sharpen. So sharpen, smart sharpen. You can play around with this a little bit more. You can bring it up a bit more. The more you bring it up, the more the sharper the image gets. But you don't want to overcook it again. So I'd say about 110 is fine. And I'm just going to hit OK. And that's just made that image just a little sharper, a little bit crisper with the lights and the details. The next thing, make the layer above it visible. And I'm just going to make a blur mask. So go to blur, motion blur. This is just going to give a bit of motion blur to your character. You don't have to have too much, but it's nice to have, because it does two things. So if I hit OK and I go to a mask, so what this does is it gives it a bit of, makes the image look like it's in motion, makes the character look like it's in motion, right? And B, it could be used to maybe hide some imperfections in the blur, or to focus the eyes in the particular area, which would be the face. So you can use that as a way to make sure that the person is looking at the face and not the rest of the body. So we're just gonna, in the mask, I'm just gonna hit Control I to hide everything. And then with a brush, soft round brush, I'm just going to, again, so you can see down here, all of this down here, not really interesting to look at. So we can just come in with the soft round brush and add some blur in here. And that's immediately going to make this area up here a bit more interesting, right? And we can also add a little bit of blur along the top as well, and on the side here. So now everything is focused into this area, right? You're not really looking up here, you're not looking down here, you're looking just in here, which is exactly what we wanted. Oh, right. And then this is like coming up to the last sort of thing that I'll do is I'll make a copy of the final piece, come to filters, add a noise, and hit OK. Now I make it so it's uniform and monochromatic, and adding noise is just like the final touch, really. So I make sure it's a soft light, and I bring the opacity down quite a bit, because what I'm trying to do, I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen, if it's too pixelated or whatever. If I turn this on and off, you can just see there's a little bit of noise now on the image, and that just helps to sell a little bit more. Make sure everything makes it so everything sort of pulls together a bit more as well, and that's it. That is how to make Godzilla bust, and that is pretty much it. Again, because we were working in a non-destructive way with Photoshop, we can now save this image as it is, and then turn off all the top layers, come back into the files, and we can change this as much as we like, and turn on all the layers again, and then have a different render. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's actually very in-depth for a live stream. I don't normally go this in-depth for a live stream with the sort of work, unless it's a Monday. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, there's a Halloween sort of sale going on at the moment. It's 50% off for everything. We haven't really just done any sort of discussions about films or games too much tonight. But I think a lot of people are just interested in the methods on how I go about making an image using ZBrush to Photoshop. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that's why you guys are still here, because you enjoy that sort of you enjoy me talking about the sort of techniques that I use. And if not, then I'm sorry if I've wasted your time. Yeah, I think I say a lot. Again, that is now brought this very mini tutorial, I guess you'd say, on how to sculpt Godzilla's bust to an end. Thanks to Thanks to Hamid Salamani. We are going to be looking at a Callisto Protocol creature next Thursday, so we'll start sculpting that. And Celestials, I will look into a more Halloween themed idea. When is Halloween? Hold on. Oh, Halloween is on Thursday. No, not. The day before Halloween is the 30th, and it's on a Thursday. So I wonder what we could do. I don't know. We have to think of something, because it's going to be it should be like a Halloween special. But you've seen how long it takes to sculpt something and then render it inside of Photoshop. It takes quite a while to do. Yeah, I have to think about that one. Ahmed Salamani says, may I ask how many parts the Callisto Protocol live stream will have? Well, it won't be a full tutorial, you see. It's going to be me sculpting and taking questions and talking whilst I sculpt. It could be three to four. maybe live streams. If we, yeah, maybe three, if I go really fast. But yeah, let's say 3 for now. Maybe 1 more for compositing. Joseph Bunkassi says, I think I will rewatch these videos a couple of times and try to mimic this bust. Well, go for it. Knock yourself out. I mean, that's why I do these, so you guys can, watch them in your spare time if you're a member. You can rewatch them and maybe try it out for yourselves, Unknown person, hello. Nice to see you. Nice cat, by the way. Nice cat profile you got there. You just about missed it, by the way. I'm about to finish the live stream. But yeah, I just want to say thank you again to everybody who's been here tonight. It's been a long one. I will leave this live stream up for the rest of the week, and it will go straight to members only on Monday. So if you haven't seen this yet, or if you're thinking of rewatching this to get an idea of how I did all this, then you have until Monday for the free sort of viewing of it. But I would really appreciate it if you became a member, because yeah, it just helps support the channel, basically. I don't know what's going on with YouTube's algorithms, but for some reason the videos that I've created time-lapse wise, I guess lockdown had a major thing, major reason for me getting as far as I did with my channel. But yeah, the viewership is going down, which is, it's not great, but hey ho, couldn't have lasted forever, I guess. But if you're a member, then that really does help with the channel, really. So I do really appreciate that. And speaking of, we got to thank all my members. Oh goodness. Yes, and there's actually 2 to 3 more, I believe. Let me just quickly close this. Just check real quick. Yes, so we have 2 new ones and 1 returning. We have Affect AT, which I haven't added yet, sorry. Joseph Monroe is back. Thank you very much, Joseph, for coming back. And we have a Mitch L399. Thank you very much for joining the membership. You guys are much appreciated, as well as everybody on this list as well. I used to say them out loud, but I think there's so many people now. It's so difficult, and it's quite late tonight. I'll do it next week for you guys. How about that? I think that would be better, because my voice is going as we speak right now. But yes, I just want to say thank you very much, you guys. You really do help with the channel, and it's an honor to share my expertise, I guess you could say. And also to my Patreons, thank you very much. We've lost someone from tier 1, but it's, it is what it is. I'm not going to force people to stay if they don't want. But I'm hoping people on my Patreons are getting their money's worth, as well as the YouTube as well. Hope you're getting your money's worth out of all this. And yeah, so let's just, we gotta turn that off. Where is it? There it is. Cool. All right. Let's go back to this one. Nope. Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to StreamYard's new setup. Just want to say thank you to everyone. Oh, unknown person says, oh, okay, brother, actually I am new to ZBrush. Good night. See you on Monday. Yeah, cool. Yes, see you on Monday, because Monday is the anatomy study. So hope everyone's raring to go with the leg sculpt. I think we're on to the sculpting the leg next week instead of blocking out the muscles. So that should be quite interesting. Yeah, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Don't get into any trouble and stay safe. All right, guys. I'll leave you with the exit now. I'm just going to turn that music off. There we are. Thank you. See you later, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more exclusive content and want to support my work further, then please check out my Patreon page at MLW_creative for more. Also, view past live streams you might have missed in Tier 3 tutorial support, where I will be archiving future streams moving forward. If you are interested in other full-length tutorials, brushes and models, then check out my online stores for more useful content. I would also like to thank all my subscribers and patrons for supporting me for this long. Again, thanks for watching and stay safe.